Okay, now that we know what inequalities are, we are going to solve a one variable inequality. There are 3 steps, and I'm going to go through them. The first step is we're going to find the boundary, and we have to find the boundary point. Then we have to decide if that boundary point should be included in our solutions, and then we decide which side of the boundary point the solutions should lie. Okay, so the very first thing, to find the boundary point, I'm going to change this into an equation. So I'm going to write this as 3 minus 2x equals to 1, because that's going to be the boundary point. That's going to be the one point that would make this equal. So it's kind of like the boundary. On one side of this boundary point, all the points will work. On the other side, all the points won't work. Okay, so I start by solving it. I'm going to add 2x to both sides, and I get 3 is equal to 2x plus 1, subtract 1. So 2 is equal to 2x, divide by 2, and I get x is equal to 1. So that is my boundary point, okay? So again, that splits my number line into 2 sets, those points that work and those points that don't. So now that I have my boundary point, I am going to make a number line. Now, I don't have to make an elaborate number line. I really only need 3 points. So the point that I always put in the middle is my boundary point, which is 1, and then I put one number above it, which would be 2, and one number below it. Okay, so now I've done that first step. I found my boundary point. I do that by solving the equation. The second thing I need to do is I need to decide if that boundary point should be included. The way that I decide that is by looking at this sign right here. Okay, because this is a less than sign, that means I'm not going to include the point. If I had an equal sign underneath there, that means I would include that point, because it could be 1 or it could be the other values as well. Okay, so that means that it's not going to be included. If it's not included, that means I have to put an open circle here. So the rules are, if you have a less than or equal or a greater than or equal sign, that means your boundary point would be a circle that's filled in. Okay? If you just have a less than or equal sign, we have a boundary point that we say it's open, and we don't fill that in. Okay? So because this sign, so I've done my second step, because that sign is just a less than sign, it doesn't mean equal, I just have an open boundary. Okay, so the last step is to decide which side of the boundary that the solutions lie. Well, the way that I do that is I'm going to pick one of these points, and I can actually pick both to test it, but I want to pick one of these points, because either the solutions are all going to be above 1 or all below 1. So I like to pick the easy one, and I'm going to pick 0, and I'm just going to plug it into the inequality. If 0 is a solution, it would make this inequality true. So I take 3 minus 2 times 0. Is that, and I'm really asking that question, is that less than 1? Well, 3 minus 0 is 3. Is 3 less than 1? No. So that means that this side is not part of the solutions. That means that this side would be the side that I shade. I'm going to shade the side the solutions are. Those are part of the solution. Okay? Now, if you notice, that sign is a less than sign, so it felt intuitive to shade on the other side. Well, that wasn't the case. That's why it's so important to take your numbers on either side of the boundary and plug them into your inequality to see which makes it true. So if I were to test the other one, I'm going to put that in, 3 minus 2 times 2, is that less than 1? Well, this is a 2. Well, 2 times 2 is 4, so 3 minus 4 is negative 1. Is negative 1 less than 1? Yes. So it is a solution. So I've shaded the right side. Okay, so when you're done, you want to express your solutions in 2 ways. This is the graphical way, so I could write underneath here my little number line, and I'm going to put 1, and I probably should have started it with over here so I didn't have to rewrite it, but that's okay. Open circle here, and I'm going to shade this. So I wrote that as like graphically, but I also want to write it as an inequality. Everything that's going to work there are all the x's that are greater than 1. So my answer to this question is stated in expressed It's the same thing, but it's shown in two different ways. One graphically on a number line, and one written as an inequality. Okay? All right, so now you're going to try that.